Alright, so this is going to be my updated Neo Warfare X skins tutorial. So first things first, the last skin I made was a while ago, but this will be your basic guide on how to do most of the stuff in terms of aircraft. This is not particularly super in-depth, but this should give you an overview and be a lot more condensed than my last attempt at this. Alright, first things first, you take your aircraft of choice, you click on Customize down here, and down here at the bottom of your screen, you will see a bunch of stuff pop up. You got basic things such as color, which will allow you to adjust the color of whatever you are using. Color 1, 2, and 3, or wood color. Wood color refers to the color of the wood on ships, such as battleships, the deck. Colors 1 and color 2 will be given to different parts of an aircraft if applicable. So some aircraft will not have color 1 and color 2, others will. Alright, in terms of insignias, it's a pretty scary looking panel at first, I guess, but I'll break it down. So we have this little section right here, or this little section, that the decal ID and the plus. This will allow you to insert decals. So for example, let me get a new scene up real quick. Okay, cool. So if I go, for example, to my decals, and let's say I just want to put this in, right? Up here, in this place right here, will be the decal ID. This is the number that you want to select. Now this will apply to any decal, so if I, for example, so let's say, for example, you want to get a decal. You could go over here, type in cheese, and search the creator marketplace. The creator marketplace is going to be all kinds of stuff that other people have made, and you can even I suppose filter it by going to, if you want decals, go to images. So let's say we want this image of cheese. Click on it. Up here, just like here, will be a string of numbers. Copy that string of numbers, and for good tip, just double click quickly on the number that you want. Just hover over it, double click. I'll select just the number. Control C, come into here. Control V, you'll see the numbers pop up. And this plus will actually insert that. So if we hit plus, you can see that a decal has popped up. Now, if you're safe at this, okay. Something very important to explain about decals early on is that these are one-sided and cannot be viewed from anywhere else. So as soon as you pass the 90-degree line of this decal, let me adjust my camera sense. As soon as you pass a 90-degree line here, you will no longer be able to see the decal. You can't see it from underneath. You can only see it from anywhere in the realm of, like, in front of the decal. Okay, cool. Let's talk about this. So currently we are on translate. Translate, you can tell you're on translate, aka to move around, because you have all of these arrows sticking out. You can click and pull on any of these arrows and it'll pull it in the right direction. The next tab is rotate. This will also be rotation. You can click and drag, although it tends to be a little bit more finicky and sometimes it just won't go where you want. And you have resize. Resize, generally it is ill-advised to use a click and drag. Rather, if come up here, you can, let me see. Oh, it's upside down. So rather, to resize, you can use these. Ignore the middle I guess I should explain this section. This section is basically a table of values on the X, Y, and Z coordinates. So for example, if I want to, let's take this back to the upright position. Say if I want to resize this on the x-axis, I can scale it up by 2 on the x-axis. If I want to scale it up on the y-axis, which is down here, so it goes x, z, y, strangely enough, can do this. I'll scale up on the y-axis. If you try to resize the z-axis, because it is a two-dimensional entity, it'll just kind of like move weirdly. So generally don't toy with that. It'll just move it off center from where you want it to be. Rotate wise, it's the same thing. X-axis. So we move this 15 degrees. The x-axis is defined sort of strangely. I'll draw it on the screen now by a line that moves like this. Y-axis. Okay, return this to center. Y-axis is drawn on a line like this, also drawn on screen right now. And if we adjust that, you can see that it tilts like so. And then this last value is going to be, it's going to be sort of rotating around, let me just show you, like the center of the decal. It'll just kind of rotate around the center of the decal. So if I put in 45, you'll notice that it is just rotated 45, and that is a line that will be drawn now. And right now should be 90. By the way, it's rotated by 90 on default. There should be 3 axes of movement / rotation / resizing drawn on the screen now. X marking, or red marking X, green marking Y, and blue marking Z. This is going to be kind of your bread and butter. You don't really need to absorb it. On a basic level, you can really just drag stuff around. So this column represents all of the, like the magnitude of movement. So how much you're rotating, resizing, or translating something. So for example, if you want to translate by a larger amount, you can step it up from 0.1 to 1, and I'll move it 1 stud at a time. You can step it down to 0.05, and it'll move by 0.05 of a stud. And you can notice as I move it along this y-axis, the value is changing. And you can observe this with all levels of movement, here, here, here. And if you're really particular about it, you can even take whatever values you want and plug them in. Okay, same thing with rotation. If I adjust this by 45 degrees, you'll notice that it rotates by 45 degrees. So that should give you an idea. Usually the normal values will do just fine, except for in translate. Translate is a very particular thing. Very small units can still do very big movements. So pro tip, people will translate in large values, get kind of in the general area they need to be, and then move by a smaller value to get it kind of where they want. Rotationally, let's say I want to slap this on the back of the plane. You can rotate this along the X. Let's just go 95. Oops. Let's just go. That was a mistake. So it's actually rotating the wrong way, the way I don't want it to. And so in that case, I'll just reverse it by slapping a negative on the amount of degrees I want, right? So dropping in as a quick lesson during this pause, we got the global and local movement systems that I didn't really talk about. So global movement system, their coordinate system, will move and rotate everything based on like a reference X, Y, and Z. So this is going to be straight north, east, south, west, up and down. Just like those values. 90 degrees, just like cardinal directions. You get it. On the other hand, local move coordinate system, if you have, say, a tilted object, you can move that tilted object in the direction that it's facing. And there will be some images on the board. But yeah, that's that. Right? And like I said, it's finicky, so I'm just dragging this straight down, and it's going like the wrong way, and it's flipping back and forth, and yeah, not always great. But you can see that the back of this thing here has a bit of a slant, so that's why I used 85 degrees and not straight 90, not straight vertical. And you'll see here that there's a little bit of clipping. So see, that's leaning forward too much. If we put it to negative 90, it's also too much. So let's do negative 80, 87, right? And there's still a little bit of clipping. In that case, just bring it out a little bit. And you have a decal comfortably slapped on the tail of your plane. Cool. All right, let's go over some of the functions down here. You, of course, have delete, which will delete your thing. You have reflect, which will mirror your decal on the opposite side of the aircraft. And so it will do this. So again, let me delete this. And you see it deletes it. If I clone it, it'll slap it on the opposite, if I reflect it, it'll slap it on the opposite side of the aircraft. And this is predetermined. You can't change the line of symmetry on where it reflects across. It is what it is. Clone will allow you to duplicate your decal. And this is particularly useful if you want to say, if you have a template and that template is the same size as decal, but it's just like, actually, I'll overlay an image. So you have a decal, right? And it's split into multiple parts to avoid moderation or what have you. It's all the same size and whatnot. So you slap one on, you copy it, and then you slap the other layer, I guess, version of that decal on top to make your complete decal. Okay, let's go over wrapping. So I'm going to pull up an old save here, subject to shifting. So this entire side of the aircraft will be broken. But you can see that this is a very intense display of decals. This is the kind of stuff that you will begin seeing if you play this game too much. Let me try to find the least broken version of this. It's up a little bit. Well, whatever. Okay. Let's go over wrapping. So wrapping is what you see here. You see there's a pretty continuous looking line that runs up and around the nose of this aircraft. That is actually a bunch of singular decals. So I'll display it with another illustration now. These are all actually, as I've said before, two-dimensional images. Like they're straight two-dimensional. Like you cannot see, you cannot physically wrap these around something, but you can give the illusion by paneling or slapping enough segments of it and rotating them ever so slightly off of one another to achieve a stripe-like effect. Wrapping is done a lot on aircraft. You can see it on the stripe back here. So yeah. All right, on to getting decals. Okay, so getting decals can be done in a variety of ways. One, of course, is going on the creator marketplace and seeing what's available to you. If you don't have that luxury, you can also go for a couple other options. You could go for a decal sheet, so F18 decal sheet. If you go to a decal sheet, it'll give you one of these. These tend to be very low resolution. This one's not horrible, but as you can see, they generally tend to be a little blurry. What you can use these for is a reference though. So a lot of what I did, so let's pull up Photoshop here. So I use Photoshop, but another free option is Photopea. Photopea has a very Photoshop-esque layout, and you can even drop in Photoshop projects. Yeah, it has almost like the same UI here. So very friendly, I guess, to Photoshop users. And then obviously classic is paint.net. Oh, my bad. Paint.net. And this is a sketchy website, but all you gotta do is just click on this here, the download. It'll take you to here. Just click download now, paint.net down here. And then that'll download the installer, just run the thing. Paint.net kind of has a different layout, but it's generally the same stuff. Just look at a YouTube tutorial. I can't tell you too much right now. But if you want an idea of what to do, here, I got you. So right here, we have kind of like a nasty looking, very low res thing, right? What you can do is you can kind of make your own versions of these. So use this as a reference and then make your own. If this thing will hurry up. Okay. So let's say you want to make something like this. One option is you can use like a selection tool like I'm using right now. This is the polygonal selection tool, something like that. And just make a selection like so. And fill it with a color. Let's just use the eyedropper tool to match the color here and fill it in. Ideally, though, you don't want to like edit the original image, so make a new layer and then fill it in. Then you can just scale it up. Given that, it'll scale up like so. And if you want to make it sharper, you can even fill it back in. Another option is just not to fill it in the first place and go with something a little more procedural. So let's say you have a rectangle, small rectangle. Can rotate it using Control T. In Photoshop, it's Control T for free transform. So I allow you to basically transform it any way you want. Duplicate it, transform it again. Just get a general shape going. This is a very rough outline because I'm doing this quickly, but you scale it up And because it's a rectangle, it's procedural, so you kind of get the same shape idea going on. And then obviously you can refine it into a point more efficiently if you use like a triangle tool, right? So you do that. Text is straightforward. A couple needed fonts that you will see all the time, will be this one, Armillo USAF. This one is your classic military-esque text. There's also D-Day Stencil, which is kind of more grungy, I guess. Generally not used on too much, but still good to have. And then you can also have your more specific ones, such as like navy, a little bit of font searching. You'll also have to do depending on the skin that you're doing. But this is kind of Amarillo USAF is kind of like the bread and butter of at least aircraft skin making. It varies. Aside from that, another thing that will also often be done is you can look up an image of, say, an F-18. Like, oh, that's cool. I want to make that. Take the image, take it in a Photoshop or whatever you're using, and use this once again as a reference. So say, for example, you want to get whatever is down there, right? You can obviously make your decals just like the numbers. Or you can even make this tail section here. And the method for doing that is that you can actually come into game here. Come look at your aircraft, Super Hornet, and so you see this angle. You want to line your camera up as closely with that angle as possible. Bring it out, and you want to minimize as much warping as possible. So, if possible, even. Here's another method. One second. Night vision. Another method is to deploy somewhere. Take off. And use your square brackets on your keyboard to do this. What this will minimize is like perspective warping. So if you do this, zoom out continuously, then punch all the way in, take a picture, and then move that picture, Alt F4, and move this picture into Photoshop. And then you can kind of, given you're clever enough, you kind of work with your tools here. So I set the opacity to 45 so I can overlay this. You can sort of start to get creative, if you get what I mean, and try copying it over onto what essentially you have made is a template of your own aircraft in Neo Warfare. And of course, you just kind of trace around. So say for example you got the polygonal lasso tool again, just kind of come around like this. You can make a selection of the top, and fill it in with red. Let's grab the color of this red here. Fill it in with red. And then just kind of at the end of the day, delete everything that's not associated with that red. And then you can export this as an image. Make sure that your image is a square, that it is in square format. This is extremely important so it doesn't get warped. When you import it, do like so, and then import it and slap it on your plane. Alright, so back in editing, but this is kind of like the final step you need to do. This is going to be actually importing it into a game here. So you can go to Roblox, create on your home pad, go to development items, and then decals. Decals is where you're going to upload all of your images. You're going to click upload on whatever you want. Say, let's go with this hat here, right? Just slap it in, upload, whatever. And it's going to pend verification for a while, so you won't be able to see it in game for a minute. On the other hand, same process as everything else to just actually get it in game. Just click on whatever, double click on the number, import it using the ID, and just follow steps. And obviously over time you'll get better with finding reference photos and working with the platform of your choosing. So for example, if you go to VFA 84 F14, right? It took me a while to find what I actually wanted to base my skin off of, but I spent the time scrolling through pictures and finding good references. And it's not even always about like copy and pasting and tracing directly off of a photo. Sometimes you can just take a look at, say, the stripe over here on this plane and recreate it just using it as a reference, like have with some artistic ability. But yeah, so sometimes it's not always all about copy pasting, but that's the tutorial. So